Disclaimer before you start the video, I messed up again, and the the recording only picked up until number 9. So you can hear the audio, but you can't see the video. So, my bad. Sorry. Yeah. That L's have been taken, but I still hope you enjoy the video regardless. Bye. Alright, everybody, it's Kenny here. Welcome back to another video where today it has been a while since I have done a top 10 roller coasters video. I decided to do one now because I'm probably not going to change my top 10 until next year. Things have changed around, and I've deleted KP2 coasters because I just decided it wasn't worth my time. And hopefully this will be new coaster content, because I haven't done this in a while and I really want to get back into it, but there hasn't been much news in the industry lately. So yeah, we'll get on to the honorable mentions. The honorable mentions are Intimidator at Carowinds, Millennium Force at Cedar Point, Kumba at Busch Gardens Tampa, and Afterburn at Carowinds. All 4 of these rides were in my top 10 last time I made this list in late 2019, and they're still all great rides. It's just because now I've ridden more rides that are better. These rides have been booted from my top 10, and Millennium Force especially is it's kind of sad to see, but there's just other rides I prefer over it. I don't think it's the greatest ride in the world. I still think it's really good, but I don't think it's the greatest ride in the world. It is kind of repetitive, and I'll honestly get onto that point later. But yeah, Millennium Force is down here. It currently is my number 11 coaster. My number 10 coaster is Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. This coaster dropped from number 6 to number 10. I still love this coaster to bits. I think I have a personal bias towards this coaster because I ride it all the time, and it's one of the most intense. It's probably the most intense ride I've ever ridden. That being said, I will have to take points away from it because of its apparent lack of airtime, which the only airtime you really get is on that first huge airtime hill, and even then it's not that much. And then the trims slow down the ride to a point in which the second half after trims is just not as fun as it should be. And that's pretty much all my issues with this ride. It's no airtime, and the trims make the second half slow. That being said, I love the intensity, I love the height, I love the speed, I love almost everything about it except for those. Number 9, Candemonium at Hershey Park. Now, Candemonium to me is a good hypercoaster. It's probably my second favorite hypercoaster. The issue is, it felt bland at times. So the first drop, first airtime hill, first turnaround, all great. The second airtime hill, great. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the trims. The speed hill was good. The outer bank was good. The part that I did like was the trims on the airtime hill before the turnaround around the Kisses Fountain. The turnaround around the Kisses Fountain was great. It's just the trims really killed this moment for me. I know it killed it for a lot of people. Also, personally, I had a bad experience with it. We went to Hershey Park on a 95-degree day, both days that we went. On our first night, it was at 95 degrees. We waited in line for 45 minutes, and it was a sauna in this line. So that alone takes away points for me, but also the trim doesn't do it for this ride. It does kill that last airtime hill. Other than that, it's a great ride, but it doesn't really do it. And that's why I enjoy this next coaster better. Now, here's a controversial opinion. I think this is better than Millennium Force. We have Storm Runner at Hershey Park. Now, this ride is weird, and I love it. That's one of the weirdest layouts I have ever ridden. And that's the same for a lot of Hershey Park coasters. The Coda Loop, the Flying Snake Dive, the top hat's insane. It's actually really, really intense. I love the launch. This coaster is great from the moment you hear the words,
"Now get ready, here we go."
It is that good. It is really, 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 really good. I love it. I will say that my only thing with Storm Runner is that the last element it didn't do much for me except for that airtime hill into the brake run. The turn was whippy, and but it didn't really make much sense to me. As weird as this coaster is, that turn didn't need to be there. That last airtime hill was great. Um, and in all honesty, I just wish the ride was longer. I really, really do wish the ride was longer. And if it wasn't, I understand they had to work with the space that they had, but if it was longer, then this would probably be higher. Maybe. Next up, we have another fall from grace. We have Maverick at Cedar Point. I still really do love this coaster. The inversions are great, the airtime's great, the intensity's great. I think that just compared to the other coasters on this list, it's not as good as them. Yes, Maverick does hurt at points. I do have to deduct points from that. Maverick does hurt at points, and for me, the second launch is great, but I think the stop up to the second launch is also deductible. I had to deduct points for that because it does kill the momentum. I know the momentum is built back up, but it still does kind of kill the momentum for me. I know that was the point to give you a break, but I wish the ride would just keep on going. Next up, a new for 2021 coaster, Jersey Devil at Six Flags Great Adventure. This ride is insane. I've unfortunately only had the chance to ride this once, because when we went to Great Adventure, the lines were ridiculously long. That's because everybody's getting back to parks for the 2021 season. But the ride that I got, the ride up gave me front row, the very front row. I wanted back, but I got the front row, and I still enjoyed the ride regardless. It has an amazing first drop. That first inversion is great. You get some pretty good airtime at the top of it. I can imagine the whip in the back is insane. The first airtime hill, the first camelback, is nuts. Even in the front row, it's nuts. I can imagine it to be nuts in the back row. The zero-G stall, my first proper zero-G stall. It's such an amazing experience. I think that it's one of the best elements I've ever been on. The turnaround, intense, very, very, very intense. And then the zero-G roll was great. And then you head up to the mid-course brake run, and that's where this ride does lose points. This ride would be number 5 if it wasn't for the mid-course. Now, while I really did enjoy the second half of the ride. The turnaround was decent. And the last airtime hills, I imagine that you would get less in the back, but I actually got some pretty good airtime in the front row. At the bottom of the airtime hills and at the top. So Jersey Devil is still a great coaster. It's just, if it wasn't for that mid-course, it'd probably be higher. Next up, the last new coaster on this list, we have Sky Rush at Hershey Park. I have a shirt of this. Every roller coaster in my top 10, I have a shirt of. I mean, not in my top 10, in my top 5, I have a shirt of. Sky Rush is interesting, in which this coaster is fun. It's really, really fun. And so many people have a love-hate relationship with Sky Rush. And half of that is because of the restraints. And I will say the restraints didn't bother me. I am smaller, but the restraints didn't bother me all that much. I got an opinion from my dad and my other family members that rode it, and they said the restraints didn't bother them. And yes, they do come down on you during the ride, but it isn't so much to the point where I needed to follow to the ground after the ride ended. And I think what Hershey Park has done in recent years was release the restraints a tiny bit once you hit the brake run, so therefore your thighs aren't being crushed on the brakes. And the meme is thigh crush. I used to go along with it. I can't really go along with it now because I've ridden it, and the restraints are not as bad. Now, the ride experience itself, the first drop is insane. The ejector airtime is insane. Some of the most insane ejector I've ever experienced. And the turns, I will agree with the fact that the layout is kind of lazy. It's still a really intense ride. I would call it a mini i305, except I love it more. It has way better airtime than i305 ever will, and that's why I put it way up here. Top 4. Next up, El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. There's not really much that needs to be said about this ride. Um, the airtime is madness. The rolling thunder hill is one of the greatest elements ever created. It's glossy smooth, and you get up there fast. It's very intense. There's not really much to be said about this coaster. However, I do have a funny story. Last time I got on El Toro, at Great Adventure, lines, like I said, for Jersey Devil, ridiculously long, and we probably would have ended up waiting like 30 to 45 minutes for El Toro. If had this random guy had come in clutch, gave us exactly the amount of, he gave us 4 skip the line passes, which is the exact amount we would need to, skip the line. So he gave us 4 skip the line passes, and we ended up getting through that line in less than 5 minutes, and it was insane. This guy came in clutch after we probably would have waited 30 to 45 minutes for El Toro, and I want to thank him. I don't know who he is, but I want to thank him. Next up is Twisted Timbers. Now, this is above El Toro for a very, very, very specific reason. El Toro has a way insane airtime that shouldn't be even legal. But the thing is, Twisted Timbers has more airtime. And I think that's what I'm getting at, because Twisted Timbers has some really good ejector airtime. The second half is alright. I do love the barrel roll in the second half and the airtime hills. The airtime hills, as a collective on the ride, are all great. I love the barrel roll drop. I love the inversions. The only reason I put it above El Toro is because there's more airtime. That's all it is. It's glossy. It's smoother than El Toro. It's glossy smooth, and I personally have a bias towards this because once again I visit Twisted King's Dominion more than I visit Great Adventure. I still go to Great Adventure every year, but I also go to King's Dominion every year. So yeah, Twisted Timbers is at number 3. Number 2 is Fury 325. What can I say? This coaster has some decent airtime. I wouldn't say it's the greatest, but I wouldn't say it's the worst. And it's tall, it's fast, it goes up the front entrance. The treble clef is another excellent element, and that's pretty much all there is to say about it. It's one of the greatest coasters ever created. I don't really have any issues with it. I just don't. It's perfect. It's one of the closest things to a perfect coaster. But what I do think is the perfect coaster is number 1, Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. Now, I haven't ridden this ride since 2018. I don't know how the mid-course is now. And I don't know if the operations are better than when I was there last time. But I will say the airtime's insane. 27 airtime, almost the most in the world. The inversions are excellent, and overall, it's just a really good ride, and it's the best roller coaster ever created. I'm not going to spend much time on this one because you've probably heard multiple people rave on about Steel Vengeance over and over and over again, but RMC really did wonders with this ride. And that's it for my video. It's been a while since I've made a top 10 coasters video. Feels good to be back on roller coaster content. I love it so much. And yeah, I will see you next time, which hopefully, cross your fingers, will either be a Hershey Park review or talking about Injustice 3. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.